about 1.5 million transactions per day on its blockchain, followed by BitShares and Ethereum, which are hand in hand with from about 700 to 800,000 transactions on a daily basis. Now, on the right here, you can see what is the capacity versus the actual use. So Larimer's projects, even though they're among the top as far as number of transactions, the capacity is still on the lower end of where it can scale. Where Ethereum, you can see here, it has a lot of use and adoption. However, it's pretty much at the peak of the ability to scale. So it still uses the proof of work algorithm, and as David mentioned, a couple of the ICOs that use the ERC20 token pretty much used up all the capacity of Ethereum, and the application CryptoKitties really clogged up the network, and here's a nice visual on that. So when Dan Larimer and his team proposed to create an infrastructure to allow anybody really to develop applications such as Steam and BitShares, he actually developed this for himself, and as he said, he wants to eat his own dog food. He's creating this so he can continue creating applications without having to start from the ground up. So EOS was announced in May at the Consensus conference in New York City, and their proposition was interesting, where they were bringing the team and the experience they had from previous projects, and some of the features that were successful, and they continued to develop. As you can see here, this company called Darpol Rating, they create a report that studies the GitHub activity, and as you can see here, EOS has taken the #1 spot as far as the number of commits, the popularity, the contributions, and the frequency of release. So recently, as David mentioned, the Dawn 3.0 software release was released to the public, and they also shared some of the benchmarks as far as performance goes. And under a single-threaded environment, they were able to achieve about 3,000 transactions per second. And they are releasing the mainnet software come June as a single-threaded environment. And soon thereafter, they will be moving towards a parallel multi-thread processing. And under their benchmark test, they were able to achieve 6,000 transactions per second. And ultimately, their vision is to move into, as they say, unlimited amount of transactions. And the way they would achieve this is, for example, if you were to take a single chain that uses parallel processing and achieves 6,000 transactions per second, and if you were to have multiple chains, say 1,000 chains, you can achieve 6 million transactions per second, and that should come in the near future. So many of this stuff David covered, but I'll go through it quickly. The human readable account names is a nice thing, where rather than having a long string of characters as a wallet address, EOS has account names, so you can register a name of your choice depending on availability, and people can actually send you tokens to that address, and you can further create sub accounts such as savings.alice. So another nice thing, which was briefly mentioned, is the account recovery. So the problem with mass adoption is that it's really unforgiving, where if you propose an application that if you were to lose a private key, you might lose your money, or if someone were to hack your funds, then your money's gone forever. So what some of these features that were taken from Dan Larimer's previous projects were the ability to restore lost keys. So in this case, if you have an account it comes with an owner key and an active key, and the purpose of an owner key is to be able to store that, put that away as your security to secure your ownership. And your active key would be used to transact, to vote, to do account changes. So if you were to lose your active key, you can retrieve it with your owner key. And if you were to lose your owner key, you can actually have a recovery partner to help you reset that owner key.
Nice.
So another nice thing is the highly customizable account permissions, which are quite dynamic. You can have a joint account. For example, if you have a company and you have partners, the partners can specify a weight versus a threshold for signing transactions. You can add permissions to even third parties. For example, if you have a company and you want somebody to publish on your social media, you can set permissions for them, and this is really highly customizable beyond what is depicted here. So something that's very unique and innovative about EOS is that it has a protocol level constitution, and the constitution is a legally binding constitution that is at the protocol level, and it serves as a peer-to-peer terms of service. It establishes jurisdiction and choice of law. It defines a human readable intent of the source code. As you all know, source code is imperfect, and this aims to compensate for that. So every transaction that's on EOS has to sign agreement of the Constitution in the form of a hash. So legally binding smart contracts that are possible through this Constitution allows you to do some pretty neat things. So for example, the Ricardian contract is a mix of human readable legal language that is human readable, and it's also machine readable. Thomas Cox, he's the vice president of product at Block One, was nice enough to make a video for us to help explain this here.
Hey there, greetings. It's Thomas Cox saying hi to EOS SoCal and your meetup of developers. Yay you for hosting that, and yay to you developers for coming out and learning more about the EOS platform. We're doing a lot to try to make our platform as developer friendly as possible. One of the things I think you'll find intriguing, maybe delightful, is the Ricardian contract, which is a way that your smart contract, which of course you'll do your utmost to make bulletproof and amazing, can be married up to a statement of the intention behind the contract and makes it legally binding within the context of whatever blockchain you're on, so that the person invoking a transaction is not just agreeing to perform the function, they're agreeing to the intention behind the function. We've got some video training and other things I can really go into detail on that. I think you'll be intrigued, and I think you'll see why it's a very powerful additional technique to you as you seek to create applications that'll create amazing value for your customers. Welcome to the EOS community, and I'm looking forward to seeing you around. Take care.
So it's really interesting at the possibilities of legal agreements in the future, where they're both human readable and machine readable, and the possibilities of using some of those for your applications. So dispute resolution and arbitration is part of the protocol level, and it's a legally binding arbitration. So if you were to have a dispute resolution, whatever the judgment might be is legally enforceable. And that can be used to enforce smart contracts, as well as to recover stolen funds. So in the event that you're unsuccessful recovering funds through the recovery feature, then you can file a dispute, and if there's a judgment, then they might require the block producers to transfer funds back to the rightful owner. So this might result in a cheaper and faster settlement than our court system, and from my understanding, it may not be available with the June release, but it should follow thereafter. So one nice thing about tokens is that you'll never use them up. So in many other platforms, the token is used for gas and transactions, and Eventually, you might run out of that token and have the need to buy more. So with EOS, your token has a utility that is good as long as you own that token. For example, voting. So as a token holder, one token equals one vote, and it allows you to vote on block producers, on constitutional changes, protocol changes, the inflation rate of the network. I believe it's issued at 5%, and thereafter it could be changed by votes. And the inflation rate is used to fund the block producers. Some of the exact terms will be released in the near future, as currently, from what we've heard, it's about 1% that funds the block producers, and that's going to be shared between the active producers and the backup. And the other 4% will be funding worker proposals, and worker proposals are another neat thing about EOS, where anybody in the community can come together and say, you know, I have a community benefit and I need this type of funding. And you might get funded, especially if it's in line with the whole ideology of the network. So aside from voting, tokens also have entitlement to network resources, including bandwidth and log storage, CPU, RAM, and in the near future you'll be able to store files similar to using a Dropbox. And the nice thing again is there's no fees, so your token entitles you to use this without ever spending the actual token. So you know, one of the things that make me very passionate about EOS, and the reason that I chose to support EOS full-time is not only for the technology and the ability to create these awesome decentralized apps, but the philosophy. And you know, Dan always says that his passion is to secure life, liberty, and property. And it leads to the question whether EOS could one day be used to organize society or to operate within government. And here's a scenario that Dan Larimer presented, I believe it was last month at Virginia Tech, which is a 2-minute scenario of what might look like to use blockchain for government.
So, you probably heard the expression, in this world, nothing is certain but death and taxes. If I have my way, I'd like to say that maybe I can't do anything about death, but I can probably do something about taxes, and this can be made possible through blockchains. So this is a hypothetical example of something that we could do. You use a blockchain to create and manage the currency of a country in a transparent way. You give the government a cap on monetary inflation. This would be a constitutional limit. 5% of the money supply every year is what they're allowed to spend. So if you take the U.S. as an example, you have about a 20 trillion money supply, and 5% is 1 trillion annual revenue. That's the current discretionary budget of the United States government. It could be entirely funded without any taxes. And if Bitcoin were money, the money that we're spending on electricity would be more than enough to replace all the government services if Bitcoin were to replace the dollar. Then you have all the non-discretionary spending, which is mostly Medicare and Social Security. If you have a universal basic income where everybody receives a fixed quantity of tokens, not a guaranteed purchasing power, but a guaranteed share, you can replace all the welfare and all those systems. And now you align the government incentives with the people. The value of the currency is the government has to grow the value of the currency greater than the inflation rate, or the government spending power goes down, or purchasing power goes down, which is very different than how it is today. All told, this could save $100 billion plus a year in tax compliance and enforcement costs. Give great financial privacy. You don't have to report everything to the government. You can't avoid it. And most important for my mission, there's no need to use violence to enforce it. No more IRS audits, no more fear of not filling out the right form at the right time. These are the types of things that could be possible with blockchain technology. And that's why I'm so excited about it.
So that's really what makes me very passionate about the possibility of